What's up, everyone? I'm here for the long-awaited return of Cyan Interviews, I guess. Maybe it's been a while. I'm here with Lowko. Before we get things started off, though, I want to say thank you to Esports Heaven for continuing to support these long-form interviews, these long-form video interviews. I also want to say really quickly, guys, I'm sorry about my audio quality. My little blue snowball is maybe on its last legs. I'm not too sure, so better safe than sorry. I went with the headset mic, but it's okay because you're not here to listen to me. You're here to listen to Lowko. Lowko, how are you doing today?
I am doing awesome. I've been rather busy today. Just got back home from Barcelona a couple of days ago, but yeah, feeling great actually. Much more rested up right now. I had to like skip a day of sleep essentially just to get home in time, but yeah, I'm feeling much better right now.
We're gonna talk about this a little later. We're gonna talk about like some California and some Barcelona, but like you
Sure.
traveled a lot in the past 30 days or so. Has it been wearing on you too much? Like now that you're back and you're trying to settle
Mm.
down, is it tough to do those big adjustments?
It's not necessarily tough for me like the travel itself. It's mostly like leading up to events. I try to prepare YouTube videos and whatnot in advance. I would say that's like the hardest part. So I usually try and make sure that I got at least a couple of weeks in between events just so I can actually work and make sure that I can still upload daily to YouTube. But yeah, for the most part, it's not too bad. I usually catch up on like jet lag and whatnot within like a day or two, maybe three. It's not too terrible. It's fun.
Actually, I want to call you out on something right now. So
Sure.
I, I I do a lot of research and I watched a lot of your YouTube videos in the run up to this, right? In all of your StarCraft 2 Summit videos, which is obviously something that takes place in California, in all the vlogs that you've done talking about those, and you do them while you're there day by day, every single time, day one, you say, "Oh, I think we beat the jet lag guys. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling ready to go." And then day two, you're like, "Wow, the jet lag's really killing me."
I don't
Maybe.
know, like first day it's not that bad, but then, I don't know. Going home is easier usually. You know what I mean? Like it becomes a little easier. But yeah, you're right. Usually I feel fine the first day and then a little while later it's just it goes worse, I guess, over the course of time. So you watched every single one of these videos?
Oh, like all of your YouTube videos? Is that
No, that'd be that'd be
that would?
that'd be kind of impossible like the
Yeah,
last
no,
month or
no,
so.
no. I do some thorough research, but it's not that thorough. Okay, damn.
Okay, no, I was gonna say that'd be a ton of effort.
Yeah, no, I try and watch a lot of your stuff, and actually, as we dive in right now, we'll talk about some of the things that I found in your mysterious internet past, I
Oh
guess.
man, I'm curious.
So before you got into the YouTube and the Twitch game really seriously, you were working as a web designer. You ran your own company. I'm not gonna try and pronounce your last name. I'm so sorry. I don't want
It's
to do
okay.
it the
It's okay.
dishonor.
It's Heinen.
Heinen. So it was the Simon Heinen Web Design Company.
Pretty
Uh,
much, yeah.
and I saw that I only found one of your customers. It was the furniture store, the Dutch furniture store. So this was like a
Nice.
long time ago now. Tell me, how did you get started in web design at such a young age? Because you're still a young guy, and to have your own business so long ago, it seems like a very big deal.
Um, so I did web design for a couple of years, essentially for other companies, which I really enjoyed doing. And then I turned 18. I was like, great, let's go ahead and just see if I can get some freelance work as well. It wasn't like super serious initially, but I very quickly found that if I, can find some of my own clients and I can actually charge my own prices, things, turn out to be much better usually, financially speaking, right? So it was mostly initially just customers that I had, just family and friends and whatnot. But eventually, people start talking, and I got some more clients, and it was a nice little side income, I suppose. So as far as like getting started with that goes, I always really liked making stuff just in general. So I was really intrigued with HTML and then PHP eventually, and got into CSS and everything, all of the web coding languages. And I really like making stuff in Photoshop as well. And at some point, I decided that I wanted to go ahead and switch like a mock-up, like a PSD mock-up, like a Photoshop document, into like a fully functioning website, right? And it was mostly just something that I tried doing just for fun. I was just really curious about that sort of stuff. And I mean, eventually I figured out that, if you can actually find someone who needs a website, they may actually pay you for doing something that you enjoy doing. So that's kind of what happened there initially for the first couple of years.
You said though that you started kind of dabbling in it before you were even 18. Like, how young were you when you first started to experiment with this?
Uh, HTML and stuff, I think it was like 11, 12-ish, something like that. I don't know. I find it fascinating. Ever since we got internet, I just was really curious on how things worked. So HTML is pretty easy to learn though if you're first getting started. So it's not like the most impressive thing or whatever. But I always found it, interesting to see how things worked, I suppose.
Well, color me impressed, Lowko. Okay.
Okay. Well, thanks.
You described your web design skill set as focusing on SEO and analytics. For anybody who's not familiar, can you describe what SEO means and what it is in the internet realm? And did that knowledge and that skill set help you when you first started to make your foray into content creation?
Oh yeah, most definitely. So SEO, for those of you unfamiliar, is search engine optimization. So essentially it is optimizing individual pages and the websites and links and whatnot, outgoing and incoming to a website for search engines. So when I first got started with web design, I didn't really focus on that all too much. But as I went to school, obviously, and I did a minor in e-marketing and social media, I found out that a lot of people, right, when you're having a client, they want to have a website and then they're like, oh yeah, let's also do the Google thing. Let's also like have our website be found on Google. And a lot of people kind of underestimate how much work that is and how much effort it is to actually show up on Google properly. Most people just want to have their business name show up when you actually type in that result, and that's usually fine. But I definitely use similar techniques, I suppose, if you look at like titling of earlier videos on YouTube. Just because like, YouTube is obviously owned by Google, or I guess nowadays like Alphabet, whatever. But they use very similar algorithms, and while both YouTube and Google are kind of secretive about it, for the most part, it definitely does cross over quite well. So yeah, I definitely did try to like focus a lot on words like, for example, guides, tutorials, very long-term, long-tail kind of search results. So if you search for like a Zerg queen injecting guide / tutorial, right? Like a ton of different words. I tried making sure that my video would show up if you very specifically search for those kind of videos, and it definitely did work initially. Yeah, I think I got some benefit from that.
So not just web design, but you've also sunk a decent amount of time into post-secondary school for a business program. Some people may not realize that while you're doing a lot of this content creation stuff, you've also been juggling full-time school. How difficult was that to keep a balance between two things that are obviously so important in your life?
Yeah, it was a bit messy, I'll be honest with you. So I've been doing this full time officially for about probably a year and a couple of months right now. Realistically, though, I've probably been doing it full time for about like 2 years. Mostly because the last year that I was doing uni, like in the Netherlands, you don't pay like a huge amount of money to go actually, to go to university. The last year that I was doing it, I was definitely putting school secondary, if that makes any sense, right? So I wasn't going through the program nearly as quickly as I was supposed to do, and over time it just I was trying to juggle a couple of things like you were saying right there, and it didn't really work out very well. I felt like I was mostly like half-arsing both of them, if that makes any sense. I wasn't really focusing on one in particular. So, spending a lot of time, going to university and then going back home and making the videos and trying to like fit in a live stream here and there as well. It was a little bit tricky, and in the end, I decided to just, I can always go back to school if I want to. I got a great opportunity right now to potentially do something that I really enjoy doing for a living. So I decided to take a little bit of a risk right there and just simply do it full time for about a year or so. And obviously now we're a year and a couple of months later. The year went very well. I definitely can't complain. Channels have grown probably about 100% or so in size. And I've just like the first day that I started doing it full time, I still really enjoy what I do right now as well. So definitely feel like I've made the right decision there. And if I ever want to, I can always go back, right, and still finish up probably the last year or so.
Yeah, it's been crazy to see your success, like continuing to proliferate on YouTube and on Twitch and in StarCraft and beyond. I know that you kind of hit a really big milestone, not just as like a content creator, but a really big milestone as a human being and as a person in the capitalist first world. I mean, you just had a deal for a house recently, right? And you're going to move in January, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was trying to decide where you were going with that. I'm like, wait, where is this leading up to? But no, yeah, I did end up buying a house a little while ago. Yeah, the people that we're buying it from are currently still living there. We're moving in about 2 months from now. So really looking forward to that. definitely a big step right there, like you were mentioning. But you know, everything is working out really well. Once again, it's a little bit of a risk, but I feel like it's going to pay off.
That's great, dude. It's good to see good people doing good things, and I like it. It's good. It's good vibes.
I'm looking forward to it, man. It's exciting right now because it's like normally this time of the year feels like it goes by really quickly. You know what I mean? And obviously with the holidays and whatnot coming up, it always feels like November and December just fly by. But this time around, it goes a little bit slower than what I'm used to. But it's okay.
So let's bring it. Let's keep it way back in the past, but let's bring it to YouTube now. You're obviously widely known for StarCraft 2, but your first foray into content creation was actually in RuneScape. You created some guides and some kind of like, I'd say AMV style videos with your brother in RuneScape before anything else. Tell me about your experience in RuneScape and like what kind of videos were you making at that time?
Yeah, so just to clarify, it wasn't actually my brother. I'm actually I'm quite impressed that you managed to find all of that information. Did you find any of the videos actually?
I did find you know what? You're a little tricky, okay? You deleted a lot of those videos.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like I was forced to remove so many of them because of the copyright system.
Oh no. Oh, I was gonna be a little disappointed in you. I was like, Lowko, you can't delete internet history like that, but it's copyright stuff. That's very unfortunate. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that it wasn't your brother, though. I thought that it was your brother. Who were you making these videos with?
It was a friend of mine who also played RuneScape, and because his nickname was with we had the same name. It was essentially a derivative of his cat's name. So his cat's name was Felix, and my nickname would be with an F, and his was with a V. So we figured, hey, what if it could be like the Felix brothers or something along those lines? It was something that we really enjoyed. So you're right. I started up the YouTube channel officially in like 2008, if I'm not mistaken. It's been some time, and obviously at the time I was playing a ton of RuneScape, like you mentioned already. I played that game for probably longer than I should admit. Like it was like all the way from like late primary school all the way to like the end of high school. Like it was a long time for playing that game, and once again, I really just enjoyed making stuff, right? And that was kind of where it all comes down, or what it all comes down to. I just really enjoyed making video content then, and I uploaded some guides and tutorials and whatnot for that game too, just because I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool. Like we were pretty high level, so we ended up doing things that a lot of people were interested in, or for example, like power leveling a certain skill. And obviously back then there wasn't really all too many guides and tutorials out there on YouTube either. Like a lot of people were focusing on either like making these weird like RuneScape related music videos and everything along those lines. So it was mostly like tutorials and whatnot. And sadly, I used a lot of like Linkin Park or a lot of like Rise Against the Machine, like a lot of these like metal bands that I really liked as a background music, or like rock bands, whatever. Before I upset anyone, I know it's a sensitive subject, but yeah, I use those as background music, and I've got them saved locally. I've still got the files over here, but sadly I couldn't leave them on YouTube. But I'm impressed you found some of them, though. Actually, I'm quite curious where you found them.
I can tell you after. I don't want to dox your RuneScape videos. Okay, they're a treat, though. They're wonderful. I had some Nickelback stuck in my head for a little while there the other day.
Exactly. That's what like 14-year-old Lowko listened to.
It's great, man. It's like a perfect example of like pre-2010 YouTube internet. I think it's perfect. Not just RuneScape though. Eventually you transitioned. You were doing some work with Minecraft. You started 2 series in 2012, Quest for Civilization and Revenge of the Gods. Tell us a little bit about these projects. Like, what did you learn from these early steps into a more serious kind of content creation on YouTube?
Right. So my whole thought process was that I just wanted to make videos of the games that I was currently playing, right? And since I was dabbling into a little bit of Minecraft, in retrospect, I probably should have stuck with it for a while longer, judging by how big that game became. But yeah, I just felt like I wanted to upload regularly, but sometimes I wasn't necessarily playing the game that people were like interested in, right? And with people and interest, I'm talking like maybe like a couple 100 people that were subscribed to my YouTube channel, right? But I felt like I had to only like upload YouTube videos that were related to RuneScape for a while, right? And something along those lines. So at some point I was like, well, you know what? If I'm not going to be playing RuneScape forever, I am just going to upload whatever it is I'm playing right now, right here. So That's kind of what happened. I decided to do a Minecraft series that I think I did like a whopping like 3 episodes of or something like that. It wasn't particularly long, but yeah, it was just like a different kind of video to edit, and it was definitely still a lot of fun.
From RuneScape to Minecraft, how did you actually discover StarCraft and StarCraft 2?
I don't actually know the exact origins, but I remember watching a Dutch television show where actually Grubby, Manuel, was on that television show. It's like one of the biggest television shows in the Netherlands. It's called De Wereld Draait Door, for those of you that actually speak Dutch. Anyway, he did like a little segment where they talked about esports. And I found out, and at the time I didn't know about this, that there were indeed people, playing video games for a living, right? And that absolutely blew my mind. I'm like, wait. I've heard of people like, doing some online YouTube content and whatnot, and eventually, getting like sponsorship deals, that way and whatnot. And people were barely getting to the point where they could maybe make a living. Obviously, back then, there wasn't even like a YouTube partnership program or whatever. But that really intrigued me. And he was playing Warcraft 3. Now, I hadn't played Warcraft 3 myself before, so I decided to get the game. And I gave it a try, and I really enjoyed it. And I think right around that time, I think this is like late 2009, early 2010, I got a beta invite with like the second wave of Wings of Liberty for StarCraft 2, and I decided to give that game a try. I liked it a lot. We're about 7 years later. Almost 8 actually. It's been a while, but I still really play the game pretty much every day. It's good.
After RuneScape and Minecraft, you started to do your content creation in StarCraft 2. Simultaneously, though, you were working with other games like Skyrim, Divinity, some Guild Wars 2 in particular. I mean, obviously, you still work with more than just StarCraft, but during this time when you were initially starting out as a more regular content creator with a primary scene, how did you decide to make that primary scene into StarCraft? Is it just more of that's what you were playing constantly, or was there any thought process behind what you were doing?
So my top priority has always been to make videos of the games that I enjoy playing, right? If I wouldn't be enjoying StarCraft, there's no way I would be making videos for it, because I feel like that would be very obvious when you're watching a video, right? Like sometimes you look at a YouTube guy that's making videos, you're like, I don't think he's actually enjoying that game necessarily very much. He's just making it because people enjoy it. And I don't want to fall into that trap. That said, I do focus specifically on a lot of Blizzard games. Obviously, I know a bunch of the people at Blizzard nowadays, but back then I figured that since I really like the games that Blizzard is putting out, and I respect the company from a customer's point of view, I think it would be smart if I focus primarily on their games. So, like I said, initially it's like Warcraft 3, then I did some StarCraft stuff, obviously, and I tried pretty much every single game that Blizzard has to offer, with like, World of Warcraft, Diablo, Hearthstone, pretty much every single game that they played. But every single time I try a different one, I always seem to come back to StarCraft. So, that's kind of where we're at right now as well. I've been playing it for so long. Now with the new multiplayer patch and everything, it's just so much fun to still play. But if once upon a time, right, I'll realize, hey, this game, it's no longer for me, I wouldn't be surprised if I switch into something else as well. But, as long as the game is enjoyable and there's people like interested in watching it, I have no plans of going anywhere in the near future. It's just a lot of fun.
Good. We don't want you to go anywhere.
No, I'm not going anywhere, man. I'll be here. I'll be here.
Good. In 2013, you'd made a lot of progress with your brand and your content, and you actually landed a spot on Quantic, and then later in the year, Mouse Sports. Those are two esports teams that at that time could definitely be considered titans of the industry in terms of teams. How did you come to develop a relationship with these two companies, and what did being a part of those organizations do for you as a content creator during this time?
I think this is right around the same time that I first started doing some live stream content, and I also uploaded YouTube videos for StarCraft 2 for quite some time already. And I was, that was the moment where Day 9 and whatnot were still like regularly uploading StarCraft content as well. So it was a little bit tricky to gain any traction. I actually got into contact with the people from Quantic Gaming at the time because of Puck, if I'm not mistaken. Puck obviously still plays StarCraft as well. He reached out all of a sudden. I don't really know these extra or like the exact specifics of it anymore, but I remember him reaching out to me. He was on the team back then as well. And he was like, hey, maybe you could go ahead and join Quantic and sort of like, make your brand sound more legit, if that makes any sense, right? Like what's the word? Legitimatize the brand more so than, yeah, like exactly, like focus on making the brand sound more real, right? So that was kind of like the the main reason for joining back then. I wasn't at the time like a Twitch partner either, so I sort of used that opportunity right there for being on one of those pro teams as well, to eventually become like a Twitch partner and to sort of just grow the brand and the channel over time, I suppose. That was kind of like the main focus, and eventually after some things happened with Quantic that are probably better left undiscussed. Yeah, I've moved over to Mouse Sports with kind of like the same idea in mind as well. Didn't necessarily like work very closely together with people, but I made some content here and there for both Quantic and then also Mouse Sports, and yeah, it was fun. It was a good time. I got to meet a lot of people in the industry that I still talk to today. So yeah, it helped.
In June of 2014, you published a video where you talked about how a focus on StarCraft 2 was something that you didn't believe was growing your channel anymore at that point in time, and that you were considering different paths you could take to continue growing your brand and your YouTube channel, saying that you decided to upload for different scenes in different games and not just feature StarCraft 2 explicitly or exclusively. Excuse me, I'm tripping over my words. Looking back on this time, did you have any worry that you didn't want to express on camera or publicly? Like, what was going through your head when you kind of made this realization? Hindsight's 2020, obviously. Is there anything that you would say to yourself, like looking back now, knowing what you know now?
I was probably like, here's the thing, right? I wanted people, and this is still like true to this day as well. Like, I wanted initially people to subscribe for StarCraft 2, but then I figured out over time that it's probably more helpful if people actually subscribe for the content that I put out, right? Rather than specifically the game that I have been making videos for. So at the time, I was focused specifically just on Zerg for StarCraft 2. And obviously, then there were a lot of people still making regular StarCraft content as well. And I felt like it was hard to like get into that scene. You know what I mean? Like if someone like, for example, Day9 and someone like Husky and someone like HD is uploading like near daily StarCraft content, I'm pretty sure they were still doing so back then as well. It was like really difficult to get views in a game that you really enjoy playing, where you put a lot of effort into it, but then you realize that there's a lot of other games that are up and coming that are probably going to be bigger in the future as well. And it was like this fine line between making YouTube videos for the game that you want to play and a game that you feel is probably going to be really popular as well and that you're interested in, right? And once again, it comes back to the debate of like, do you want to upload videos for RuneScape, or do you want to also start mixing in videos from, for example, Minecraft, which I enjoyed playing then at the time as well. So it's sort of like this back and forth. And obviously over time, I decided to stick with StarCraft because the game is just too good. So I just kept playing that. But it's been quite some time. I haven't actually felt like that in a long time, though. I don't even really recall making that video, if I'm perfectly honest with you. But that's well found by you.
I mean, that's a good thing to forget, right? It's a good thing to forget that kind of worry and not have to have those concerns anymore. So good on you, man.
I think it's also due to the fact that I wanted to like grow the whole channel to something that I could actually eventually do for a living, even though it was never like the primary focus to like make money or whatever, right? It's still never been like a focus of mine to like worry about money. I feel like if that's the case, once again, it will make the quality of the content significantly worse. Yeah, I just wanted to grow the channel to a point where I could hopefully maybe do something with it in the future as well. And I wasn't entirely sure where StarCraft 2 would be going at the time. I think it's probably a combination of things.
Kind of tying into the ideas of personal anxiety or concern. You have said on record multiple times that if you had the chance to be a pro gamer, then obviously, you would have loved to go down that path. I think at one point you said that there's a point in time where you realize there's a really big difference between top ladder GM and an actual professional player, and there's a really big skill gap there that you'd have to climb over, and it's tough to do. Was there any specific point in time where you thought maybe that pro dream wasn't coming to fruition, maybe it just wasn't in the cards, like, period at all? Like, was there any big moment of realization there along those lines?
I felt like when so there was a time where I really wanted to go hard on StarCraft 2. I really wanted to try and become one of the best players, and eventually I did climb my way up to GM and all that, right? But I also came to realize that if I'm playing that many hours every day, I'm not actually enjoying myself very much, right? So I came to realize that what I was doing was something that I thought would be a lot of fun, and then I realized I actually didn't really like playing like 8+ hours every day, outside of university and everything as well, and that I kind of miss making YouTube videos and everything surrounding that too. So eventually, instead of like focusing on gaming as hard as I can, I realized that I wanted to still maintain like a pretty high skill level, like maybe like top 500 Europe or something along those lines, while also actually having fun with the game, right? Because I feel like content creation is definitely something that I'm better at than beating the best of the world, and I think it was the correct decision after all.
Was there ever a point where you looked at your content creation and your brand that you had built, and you kind of realized, like, wow, I guess I made it? I mean, you've gone through these big life events like buying a house, buying a car, actually making the transition into 100% full time. Was there a point in time where you realized, like, man, I guess I've made it? Or is that still something that you don't really think about?
No, I don't really think about it like in those terms. I don't feel like I haven't made it, man. There's so many other things that I still want to do as well. Like it's there's so much stuff ahead of us, right? Like it's hard to say where things are going to be, say, in like 10, 15 years from now. Uh, no, I don't think there was like one given moment where I felt like, I really made it. It's more or less like taking a risk and then making a calculated decision, right? Like, for example, deciding to stop going to university in order to pursue going, full-time content creation, right? Like, it was a really exciting moment, but then I realized there's a lot of work to be done as well, right? It wasn't like necessarily a moment like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm the best. Like, no, not even by, not even by a stretch.
So let's talk a little bit about present day, here and now. You stream all the time, you post regularly to YouTube all the time, obviously. These are enormously time consuming tasks that maybe people underestimate. Where do you find the time to put all this work into what you do? It's such high quality, it's such, you put in a lot of long hours, you can tell. Is that taxing at all?
Thank you. First off, appreciate that. I try and focus on working efficiently. So I upload 7 days a week. So I upload one YouTube video a day. At the very least, that's what I've been working on for the last year or two. And then recently, I upped the amount of hours that I live stream on a daily basis from 4 to 6. So I was uploading 2 videos a day for a while. Then obviously YouTube started being a little bit funny over the last 6 months or so, and I decided to scale it back to 1 video a day instead and go for 6 hours of live streaming. I don't know. I find it really enjoyable to try and maximize my time. I try and waste as little as I can. I try and wake up in the morning and just go until usually about the time that I go to sleep. So there's definitely moments where I take a little bit of time off, but I don't necessarily spend like, I don't wake up thinking, oh yeah, okay, now I'm going to do 8 hours of this and then I'm done. That's not quite how it works. Like I've got a list of things that I want to do on a daily basis. And as soon as that list is done, that's, when I'm done with the day. If that makes any sense. It's a little bit different. So yeah, I try and focus on getting a bunch of stuff done and, trying to do so in a quality that I'm happy with.
Cool. I think it's a pretty good approach. You
Thanks.
touched on it really briefly there, the YouTube systems, I guess we'll say. Most recently, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding the ad system where videos are being flagged as advertiser unfriendly, and it seems like a real throwing darts at a dartboard, random, God knows the parameters, who knows what'll get flagged next kind of system.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the state of YouTube in the past 6 months or a year? Have you been dealing with these problems, and how has it affected you?
Personally, I haven't had all too many videos demonetized. I am still a little bit worried that all of a sudden YouTube will come along with the ban hammer and all of a sudden mention that a lot of videos are not advertiser friendly, even though I feel like all my videos are pretty much as family friendly as it possibly can be. I don't swear. I don't do anything obnoxious, I don't think. There were a couple of videos that got demonetized. Like, for example, how to, like, can I swear on this? I don't. All right. I had a YouTube video titled "How to Fuck Up a Protoss," That one had like 1 million views or close to 1 million views, and then I realized all of a sudden it's like gaining no traction whatsoever anymore. Turns out that indeed that video got demonetized, and I was a little worried back then because you couldn't actually look into your YouTube analytics and see which videos were monetized and see which weren't. Like you can't see that right now. There's like a button, like for example, if your video is monetized, you can see like a green little icon, but like YouTube wouldn't tell you anything. And while personally my videos haven't really been affected very much, I had a couple, like I said, that got demonetized. For the most part, it's all fine. I will say that it kind of hurt my trust a little bit in the platform. Not until I personally had about 200,000-ish subscribers did someone, like an actual person from Google, reach out to me to ask, if you could maybe like talk at some point, or maybe have a bit of a phone call just to like make sure that I have someone to reach out to, which right now is at the very least decent. But it's still scary to say where YouTube is going to be, right? Just with the communication from the platform directly, it's just a little bit worrisome. I mean, I just want to make good videos. That's kind of my priority. I just want to make videos that I think are worth putting out. And as it is right now, YouTube is by far for that the best platform. But if it turns out that in the future another platform comes along that's better, I mean, I don't plan on stop making videos anytime soon. If another platform comes along, and I think if there's ever a time for Google to be a little bit worried about another platform coming along, right now would probably be one where things are a little bit risky for them. Yeah, I wouldn't be against switching over. No, I would love it if there's like some competition, just to like make sure that it's not just robots that you're talking to. I've tried reaching out to YouTube in the past. It's right now I've got someone I can actually message directly, but 99% of the correspondence with YouTube is just going to be a robot, which is just a little bit weird, right? Like even if you're like I've read some comments just the other day of like a couple of big Hearthstone people and other like completely family friendly streamers and YouTubers who just simply had their channels essentially deleted for no apparent reason, and like they weren't even told, right? Like I'm a little bit worried for the fact that I would wake up one day and I log into my YouTube channel and all of a sudden I see that it's gone, right? I highly doubt that would ever happen, but it's like one of those things where I'm starting to lose a little bit of trust, if that makes any sense.
So, I mean, you just mentioned, you've bumped your Twitch streaming time from 4 to 6 hours, spending a lot more time on that platform. Already you were spending a lot of time on that platform. Is there a website that you prefer between Twitch and YouTube, like a platform for your content?
Do you mean besides YouTube and Twitch?
No, between YouTube and Twitch. Like if you had to pick one, I guess.
Oh, okay. If I had to pick one, ooh, that's a tough one. I really like the mix of things, Like I wouldn't really want to do just Twitch or just YouTube. I started, I guess, doing everything just on YouTube, and that's a lot of fun. Then I figured out that live streaming was coming along, and I started doing that on Twitch as well. Initially, I actually streamed for a while on Own3D, but I don't know. I find the mix of the things really enjoyable. Like almost like whenever I start my live stream, it almost feels like I'm just hanging out with friends. You know what I mean? It's a lot of fun to just simply get started, and it's almost sometimes I have a really stressful day, and I'm really looking forward to just simply starting up the stream for about 6 hours, if that makes any sense. So it's I don't know, like I don't think I would really be able to choose very quickly between like either YouTube or Twitch. I like the mix.
So we talked about your travel recently. You're just getting back from WSG Europe, which was in Barcelona. You were a caster there. WSG is still relatively new, I would say, coming up last year. It's relatively new for its size, at least. It's such a big project and a big tournament. How was that experience of casting at Barcelona?
Yeah, it's actually my first time working together with WESG. I think they did a really solid job. I don't really have any complaints. I mean, obviously there's a new multiplayer patch, and the games weren't necessarily like the best series, lots of 3-0s and whatnot. But yeah, it definitely was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. It was fun.
You're also going to be casting the Dutch StarCraft League in the coming weeks. I can't remember the exact date.
I believe it's the 9th of December. Yeah, it's next week, okay. Saturday.
It's very soon. And you've put in a lot of work in the past in your history as a caster, just like on YouTube, Twitch kind of thing. Is casting something that you would ever consider pursuing more seriously if you could get the gigs?
Actually, I think I would really enjoy it, yeah. Like, once again, it's always been priority to be able to make my own content as well, and I really enjoy not really necessarily relying on, like, one company or one partnership or anything along those lines. I wouldn't be able to like take it to like Rotterdam levels where he's on a plane pretty much every week, it feels like. But yeah, if there's like more events out there that are interested in having me around, I think I would definitely be interested in giving it a try. Really enjoyed doing WESG. I secretly alt-tabbed in between games every now and then to see what Twitch chat was saying. I didn't see anyone complain, which is probably a good sign. And I think like overall, like I asked for feedback, and you know, if anyone watching this as well has got any feedback, feel free to like let me know, and you know, just see if I can make any improvements in my cast. But no, if there are more opportunities available in the future, I'm definitely interested. It was a lot of fun.
You were before WSG about a month ago now. Obviously, you were at BlizzCon and the StarCraft 2 Summit in California. At BlizzCon, you were working with the virtual ticket team. I think you were described as a field reporter during the convention. Yep. What was that like? How was it working for Blizzard during BlizzCon?
It was actually a lot of fun. Like, obviously, it's one of those things, right? I've not been doing this full time for that long. Like, essentially, for those of you unfamiliar, right? I did some casting essentially directly from the show floor, where I'm like taking people backstage. I'm showing people around the venue, and the idea was that you could basically bring that like BlizzCon feel to the live stream as well, other than just simply all of the esports events and the panels and whatnot. Obviously, there's a lot more to BlizzCon. That was kind of the idea behind it, right? So I would basically go through the venue with like a camera team and like a makeup lady and someone who like would brush down my clothes and stuff, and I would just pretend like I've been doing that for like 2 years or like, you know, longer than that. But it's a little bit awkward when you're in the front of a stage and someone's actually trying to fix up your makeup while a light is right on your face, right? But I think it went well. I mean, once again, I didn't see anyone complain. Blizzard seemed happy with it, so yeah, no, it's been good. It's a lot of fun though. It's really cool to be given like more of those opportunities, you know? Like I couldn't really imagine doing that a few years ago, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Obviously, you cannot talk in specifics, but talk a little bit about the StarCraft 2 Community Summit. Is there anything that you can tell the people about the event? Like, were you satisfied with what was discussed?
Yeah. The main priority for me going there initially, or at least the main reason why I wanted to make sure that I was there, was to figure out whether or not StarCraft 2 would be something that I want to also pursue in 2018. And the answer is yes. So that's probably the most important one. Now, like it's important, I guess, for people like you and me as well to figure out whether or not this is going to be something that we can continue doing. Yeah, I really enjoy the game, and as long as I can make a living out of it and I enjoy it, I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna stop doing it anytime soon. So I'm definitely happy with the fact that they're just continuously putting out more stuff.
You said there that your intention in going was to find out if it was a game that you wish to pursue in 2018. Before going to the summit, was that in any doubt in your mind? Like, were you kind of close to thinking, maybe it's time to move on? Kind of one of those 2014 moments again, perhaps?
Not necessarily. I definitely have trust in like the development team to continuously make more things. But like just from purely a business point of view, right? If you were Blizzard Entertainment and you would look at StarCraft 2 and it's a title that has been out for 7 years, does it make financial sense to like actually have a group of developers work on additional stuff? Apparently so. I mean, it wouldn't have been all too surprising, right? If they would have decided otherwise and just said, no, you know, all of the people that are currently working in this game, we can probably use you on a new project instead. And, you know, that would be sort of the end of StarCraft 2, right? Like, that wouldn't have been all too crazy either. I don't think anyone would be absolutely surprised with that. But no, I'm happy to know at the very least that is not going to be the case. But it's always a doubt. Like you know, where is StarCraft going to be like in 4 years from now? I can't tell you. Like, I have no clue.
One of the big changes that came about in the past few months was this big balance patch, and a lot of people have a lot of different varying opinions on it. There are some people, Terrans, who are particularly upset, perhaps. What are your personal thoughts on the new state of the meta?
I think it's really exciting currently, just to know that there's a wide variety of strategies that are currently being figured out. I mean, I personally hadn't seen like Colossus play in a long time in Zerg versus Protoss, or pretty much any kind of matchup, right? And people are still trying to figure out a whole lot of new strategies. While, like you were saying, right, initially it did seem like Protoss was just a little bit too strong against Terran, and it's probably still the case. I mean, we are going to be seeing some minor skill backs for the Protoss, and then, you know, some minor buffs as well for Terran. I think that in about a year or so from now, we could probably all agree upon the fact that it's going to be a significantly better game. And while initially there's always going to be some growing pains, I suppose, with a new patch, I think over time it will definitely be the correct decision. I mean, there were just simply some things in the game that weren't particularly fun, right? Like, did anyone truly enjoy the Mothership Core? I mean, it's one of those units, right? It's just, I don't know. I think we're better off just simply getting rid of it and actually fixing the Protoss early game. And while it's gonna take some fine tuning, I think in the long run it's gonna be great. I think in like BlizzCon, like 2018, it's gonna be sick. Like the games we'll see right there, it's gonna be so sick.
Definitely, I totally on board with that sentiment.
I hope so. I hope I'm right.
I hope so too. I mean, I believe. I have faith. Speaking as a high-level Zerg player in particular, what are your thoughts on the state of Zerg right now? There are some people that are complaining about lurkers. That's a new one. There are some people complaining about infestors, and they're looking at retooling the infestors again, I believe, if that's still up-to-date information. What are your thoughts on the Zerg arsenal right now?
Probably a little bit too strong. There's a couple of things that will probably need to be tuned back a little bit. Fun fact: one of the things I realized on the internet after a while is that whatever race you don't play is always overpowered. So it's it's always true that it doesn't really matter too much what changes in the meta or what strategies change. There's always going to be people complaining about balance. Even if it's like perfectly 50-50-50 for all of the matchups at the professional level of play, people will still complain about photon cannons being too strong, right? Like, I don't think you can please everyone, but for the most part, I think that Zerg probably is a little bit too strong right now, but obviously the Infestor is getting skilled back already. Maybe Swarm hosts need a little bit of movement speed off creep once again, but only time will tell, really. I think that the balance team, at least the people that are working on the game right now, they're doing a pretty solid job. I don't think anyone's really complaining about it all too much, right? Like, people will complain about balance, but I feel like they're responding in the right direction, at least.
How do you feel about these big sweeping balance changes that they've kind of been doing for this year and last year? It seems like something that's important to Blizzard and to a lot of members of the community, but it is something that pretty much just creates an entirely new multiplayer from what was there. Is that something that you're in favor of? Is that something that you're against? Like, what are your thoughts on these changes?
I like it. I like when the meta gets shifted a little bit, right? And there's a couple of ways you could do so. Obviously, you can change up units. Like, for example, we see with Dispatch and essentially overhaul a whole lot of these like late game and early game scenarios. You can also go ahead and do so differently with like introduction of different maps or different elements or whatever, right? I feel like there's a lot of experimentation there. I'm happy to know at the very least that they're changing things that aren't necessarily fun but are balanced. And what I mean by that is, for example, the mass carrier style. I don't think anyone really enjoys it when a Protoss player just sits back on 4 bases, gets one big army, and while technically speaking that army can be killed, nothing really happened for the first 15 minutes of the game, right? Like, I don't think that's necessarily a very exciting game to watch. And the same can be said for like a lot of like the early game plays, for example, with the Mothership Core. It can just get shut down, and there wasn't necessarily any like fun interactions there. And while it was balanced, I think the game is going to become a lot better. So as long as as long as those like bad quote unquote parts of the game are going to be addressed, I don't mind. I don't mind the big balance changes. I like the fact that the meta gets shifted a bunch and that new strategies have a chance of developing. Like, for example, right? Like the Colossus wasn't really seeing any kind of play in Zerg versus Protoss, or we weren't really seeing Swarm hosts for the longest time until obviously they got a little bit changed, and all of a sudden they turned out to be amazing against mech. There's all kinds of changes that can be made, and I feel like as long as we don't get a really boring game where it's just about balance, I think it's gonna be good. I don't know if we need to see like necessarily another one though next year, or I wouldn't necessarily be against it, but I don't know.
As someone who's been playing since Wings Beta, which is an enormous amount of time, is there anything that you wish would make a comeback in StarCraft 2? There was a thread about ZVT mutilating Bane the other day, and that like pulled at my heartstrings so much. Is there something that you wish maybe would come back in the meta? Like
the Archon toilet, right? Everyone would love that. Like Vortex and no, okay, it's terrible. Is there any? Yeah, I wish mutas were maybe a little bit more fun to play again, right? I'm glad that all of a sudden lurkers are a lot more viable. I mean, it's only like, here's the thing, right? Like, for example, making mutas a lot more viable versus Terran, all it would really take is like for example, removing boost off of a medevac if a Thor is loaded up, right? Because that's sort of the only thing that really changed. Then all of a sudden everyone's playing Hydras. It's these really minor things that are shifting the meta. If, for example, Thors wouldn't be able to four-shot mute us, I think that's true. I hope I didn't say that wrong. But anyway, right now you can shoot once with the Thors, load them into medevacs, boost behind the behind the mutas, and shoot them again. And all of a sudden the mutas are gone. If the mutas would survive with 2 HP, people would be playing a lot more mutas. I don't know. There's not like one thing in particular that I feel like needs to make a comeback. Although I really personally enjoyed the Mutaling Bane style, but.
So you've produced content for actually all of the Blizzard titles. You've done a lot of Diablo, obviously StarCraft, or all the current Blizzard titles, I guess I'll say. World of Warcraft, Heroes, Hearthstone, like all of it. Overwatch. As a content creator through the years at varying degrees of notoriety, I guess I'll say, working with these different scenes, is there any kind of scene that stands out besides StarCraft that was particularly good to work with or bad to work with? Like, were you particularly well received in WoW but hated in Heroes, for example? Anything like that?
I think a lot of people really like the Heroes stuff as well. I know a bunch of the people that work in Heroes of the Storm just because it's a lot of the same Blizzard people that work on that game as well. Like they like share teams a bunch. I feel like the Heroes community was really positive as well. I don't play the game nearly as much anymore these days. I probably should get back into it at some point. Likewise, for example, occasionally I stream like Hearthstone, right? Very occasionally, like, 4 times a year. And I noticed that immediately the chat like floods with people that are just very nice to shit talking other live streamers that play Hearthstone, right? And because I'm obviously not particularly great at the game, obviously there's a lot to shit talk upon when it comes to my when it comes to my game. I don't know. It's probably more or less like Twitch chat culture as well, but I feel like all of the Blizzard games are pretty welcoming though. I don't feel like there's one in particular where people are like. Probably StarCraft 2 is one of the most elitist like gaming communities out there, right? Like people love their StarCraft, and I don't blame them. But I feel like people are still very welcoming as well, right? Well, kind of depends on where you're looking.
As a content creator who currently has like a really sizable, natural built following with like 200K subs on YouTube, and I don't even know how many followers on Twitch and Twitter and etc. Is it still important to you for your work to be posted to like Reddit, Team Liquid, shared like that? How much of a difference does it make for you when a video that you make gets posted to like StarCraft Reddit, for example?
It definitely does make a difference. Yeah, I feel like it's nice to read what people in like a more hardcore community think of your content. What I mean by that is, for example, I get a lot of people that watch my YouTube videos because they really like co-op, right? But the amount of times I see co-op discussed on the StarCraft Reddit is pretty much 0 to none, right? Like not a lot of people are necessarily that interested in co-op. But if I upload, like, for example, a video that I've been working on a lot, like, for example, like a BlizzCon vlog or anything along those lines, where it's like a little bit more behind the scenes, I'm always really curious to see what people that are a little bit more hardcore into the game have to say about it as well. View-wise, yeah, I do think there's like maybe a handful of people that are interested in that as well, but that's not really the top priority though. I just wanna read what people say of it, right? If I'm feeling a little bit risky and I feel like I can handle the critique that day, I may post a thing or two to Reddit, but usually I try to stay in the shadows a little bit more and lurk some.
So as my viewers should probably know, if this is your first time watching, then you won't know. Hello. I take fan questions on Twitter and Discord and Team Liquid. Mm-hmm. Twitter and Team Liquid really let me down this time, honestly. All my questions are from Discord. Shoutouts to the Discord homies. I'll put a link down below. You can join my Discord. It's pretty active, so hit it up. I also want to give a shout out to Hard Revenge, who wanted me to ask you about the YouTube stuff, but that was already a part of my script, so it already got asked. But shout out to Hard Revenge. Thanks for the question. So digging in here, Hot Japanese Girl on Discord asks, recently you purchased a house, which is a huge life goal for most people. So what other goals and aspirations do you have in life outside of StarCraft 2, streaming, and YouTube?
I'm not a very materialistic kind of person, I don't think. I don't necessarily need like the flashiest car or like, I don't know. I don't really have one thing in particular. Like my top, I feel like I'm giving the same answer to a lot of things, but I've always had the idea that I want to do what I do every day, that I do for a living, and I want to find it enjoyable, if that makes any sense, right? Like I want to do something that I can do that I'm actually enjoying. I don't want to be waking up on the Monday and absolutely dreading the day already, right? I don't want to ever have that feeling if I don't have to. And obviously, I'm still a person. I still have, days where I feel like, I may be a little bit too tired, or I'm maybe jet lagged, and I still have stuff to do. I don't want to, like, not look forward to the day, if that makes any sense. So that's kind of my top priority. Just simply have fun, not, I don't have any desires to, like, have my fourth, Rolex and, drive a Ferrari after the stream. And, like, I don't care. I don't really care that much.
I think that's a very helpful, or not helpful, healthy philosophy and state of being. So credit to you.
Oh, thanks. No, I think you probably get really frustrated if you just chase, materials. I don't know.
Gotta chase something. Gotta chase that dream of happiness, at least. On Discord, Jacob asks, kind of just a cutesy question. Would you rather fight one mothership-sized probe or 100 probe-sized motherships?
Isn't a mothership quite literally a floating city?
But it's small-ish.
Well, in game it is, right? Are we talking like the lore mothership, or like?
Oh, that would be a sizable probe.
Yeah,
you know what? GG,
I would probably go with. I don't know how big a probe would be. It's probably still like 3 foot tall, right? It's not going to be that small, but I would probably have to go with the probes.
Did you see the probe at BlizzCon? The, like, life-size model?
Yeah, if that's like a real, I could. Well, I would probably still, get wrecked, but I feel like I've got more of a chance of fighting a floating city.
Try and take a baseball bat to that thing that's like 4 foot tall, but yeah. Zeldaron asks, what is your favorite StarCraft memory? And he's got a part 2 that I'll ask after.
Favorite StarCraft 2 memory. He's probably like talking about one particular game that really stands out for me. There's like a bunch of like moments that pop into my head, like the GSL victors, or watching like BlizzCon and the game that Idra had won and that he left. I mean, those may not necessarily be favorite moments, but I definitely do remember them from time to time. I think my absolute favorite moment though would be just figuring out that it was actually an esport, right? Like when I first heard about the fact that, Grubby was actually playing Warcraft 3 for a living, and eventually finding out that there was like a massive scene surrounding StarCraft as well in Korea and whatnot, and that people were actually like, making money off of playing video games. That absolutely blew my mind. That was probably my favorite moment. That was also the moment, like probably 3 weeks after I, got access into the beta. So it's not necessarily like one game that stands out for me, but yeah.
This is my own follow-up question. I'll ask Zeldy's after. But growing in StarCraft into a scene that was already established, did you ever have moments of kind of like awestruck, starstruck fandom, like meeting these people like a Grubby?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, all the time. I remember the first time I like saw Day 9 and whatnot. I'm like, dude, I watched like 100 hours of your stuff on the internet. Like, you're actually a person. Like, I don't know. There's been a lot of moments like that where I used to fanboy over people for so long. And then, you meet them in person. It turns out they're actually just, regular people as well. And they also have like, feelings and stuff, like not just an anonymous like Reddit username that's just typing shit against you. Yeah, I got that all the time, for sure. It was pretty interesting though. It's pretty funny as well, because sometimes I get people right now doing the exact same thing to me. I'm like, dude, I'm just a guy. Just just relax. It's really nice though.
Is there anybody who you still kind of have that feeling towards, that you kind of haven't gotten over the, oh my god, I'm actually talking to kind of moments?
I don't think anyone in particular. No, I don't think there's like anyone in particular right now. I think I've met most of the people in the scene.
It's a good thing to get over. I mean, it's tough to talk to people in a real way when you have that kind of anxiety going on. But yeah, good on you. Zeldaron's part 2 question was, who is your favorite YouTuber besides yourself?
Whew,
and I'll throw in Twitch streamer too, like Twitch streamer / YouTuber.
I watch a lot more YouTube than I watch Twitch. on that same note, I produce a lot more stuff on YouTube than I watch on YouTube. So I don't, I don't watch nearly as much as other people may. There's like a bunch. I'm actually gonna like. I'm worried that I'm like gonna name a name and then forget someone that I watched a ton. If that makes any sense, right? Like I go from faces to other faces where I'm just watching different kinds of content. I watch like a variety of things, like a lot of like technology review channels to like other gaming channels as well, and a bunch of shows like Good Mythical Morning. I watch that usually. Like there's a bunch of I don't know. I'm worried that I'm gonna forget one name in particular that I feel like I should really name off. I've been watching like, okay, so this is something that I've been watching over like the last month or so. I've been watching pretty much every single vlog of David Dobrik, which is like, it's maybe not like the highest end humor, but for some reason I find it hilarious from time to time. But then again, I can imagine I'll probably be watching something completely different in like, 2 or 3 weeks from now, right? I go through these phases where I'm just like watching every video that a channel has ever uploaded, and then all right, I'm gonna go with primitive technology. There you go. You know primitive technology?
Cool, I do know that one actually. That's
I watch every video he uploads. So.
They're like oddly soothing in a way.
Oh yes.
It's weird. It's different. It's cool too. He obviously knows his stuff.
Yeah, he essentially built stuff from scratch in like the wilderness. That's kind of his channel. The man hasn't spoken a word, and he's got like 5 million subscribers or something like that. It's pretty crazy.
His feet must be like the worst, though. I mean, he's walking around in the forest with like no shoes because it's primitive technology. They didn't have shoes. Like, God, your feet must be destroyed, dude. That must suck.
He's actually right now at 6.7 mil subs. I think I've got probably about a 90% view rate on all of his videos. It's
wow.
It's pretty good. It's a lot of fun.
Do you have any tips for anyone who's trying to rise in the content creation sphere in 2018? In StarCraft 2, on YouTube, beyond, like, if you could start right now knowing what you knew, what would you do?
I think top priority is consistency. Obviously, quality of content, right? That obviously has to be first. You gotta like bring a certain quality because otherwise people won't watch. But secondly, like, and this is one of the things that I feel like a lot of people are slipping on, is going to be that consistency. I see a lot of people that first get started on YouTube and are like, okay, let's go. Let's upload, 7 days a week. I'm going to upload every single day. And then 2 weeks later, they figure out they're kind of run out of ideas, and they realize that it's pretty tricky to keep up with that schedule. And slowly they start uploading less, and all of a sudden they haven't uploaded for like 2 months, right? You don't really want to run into that trap. So if you initially want to get started, I would probably recommend like doing like 1 video a week. And while you maybe can record like 4 this week, just record the others, but just put them on the backlog, right? And maybe edit them a little bit more after you've seen your own video a couple of times, and just be very consistent about that, because I feel like that's really important. Like I try to make sure that I upload at the same time every day. It's the same time. It's not like a different time either. Just so I know for a fact that basically the first 2 hours that a video goes live, I get like a ton of people that are interested just because they know a video is supposed to go live then, right? And you essentially want to be part of like people's like weekly or like daily schedule. Ideally it's daily, but I feel like quality of content and then consistency is really important. And as far as what videos go, I feel like that's also a question a lot of people ask. Like, I can't tell you what videos you should make. Just do what you find enjoyable. I mean, there's probably something you're really good at that other people are really bad at, or maybe there's something that you find fascinating. I don't know. Maybe you're really into shoelaces. You should probably make a video channel about. I can guarantee you, there's people interested in shoelaces right now. There's probably. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. Shoelaces. There's probably a channel out there. Yeah, there's a guy called. There's a bunch of channels with over 1 million subscribers that fascinate. Yeah, there you go. There's like really silly things that you can do on YouTube. Not to say that this is silly necessarily, but like if you're really passionate about something, some people get like ashamed of what they enjoy. I feel like you gotta like leave that behind you right away, because people on YouTube or on Twitch, they will tell you right in your face what they think of you.
Absolutely, I'm super on board with that. Revisiting that 2014 video that you put out in June, talking about the uncertainty of continuing with StarCraft 2. In that video, you talked about how there were approximately 200,000 people who were dedicated playing ladder, and that you had like 50K subs, I think, at the time, and that means that you had like 1/4 of the people, and that means that you're probably tapping into most of the Zerg players You were playing ladder at that point, so you felt like you were hitting a wall with how much you could actually progress.
Mm.
Going forward to now and looking forward with 200K subscribers on your YouTube channel, do you feel like you're still able to experience like a ton of growth in the future? And then do you think that there's room for another person to maybe come up in the same role? Like can you share that space with anybody else, do you think?
Actually, over like the last month or so, it's been really solid. Like, so I just looked it up. There's roughly roughly 70,000 people that sub to the channel this year. So like the last year or so, right? That's still, you know, like I didn't really expect those people to come in. I think one of my mistakes initially as well is with that video, like you just mentioned, is that I assumed that the majority of the people would be playing multiplayer. Not until like Blizzard mentioned it. Apparently, a lot of people play co-op. So I started dabbling into a little bit of co-op, and I found there's a lot of, you know, room for potential there as well. Like, there's definitely people interested in 1v1, but the amount of people that play co-op is significantly bigger than the people that play all of multiplayer and arcade, right? Like, it's a massive amount of people that are really interested. And even like the last month, obviously with free to play and whatnot, there's been about 7,000-ish new subs. I don't know, man. Like, it's hard to say when it's gonna slow down. I you know, something that I was a little proud of that happened like a couple of months ago is that I surpassed the official StarCraft channel in subscribers, which I thought was pretty cool. Like, that was something that I looked up. I'm like, oh shit, that's actually pretty awesome. I don't know. Like, as far as like still making content goes and coming up with that, I mean, one of the things to keep in mind, like, it's definitely doable. Okay, but StarCraft 2 is also one of those scenes where it's like sometimes a little bit regarded as like an old boys club in a way, where it's like a lot of people that have been around for a long ass time. Those are the ones that people watch and no one else. If you do something really cool, there's definitely people interested in watching it. You know what I mean? Like, for example, what you're doing right now with these interviews. I think there's a lot of people that are interested in this kind of stuff because no one was really doing it for the longest time. Yeah, if you find yourself with something you can do and other people haven't already done that, or, you know, aren't currently doing so, or if they are and you think you can do a better job, there's certainly room for that.
Nice. Thank you for that little personal plug there. I appreciate that very
much. Oh man, it's awesome. Like, honestly, like there's so many things that you can potentially do if you want to, right? But it's a lot of effort. I mean, it's just you know, coming up with like a couple of questions, but it's like a lot of effort to actually get things going. I think people appreciate that.
Definitely. I hope so. Looking towards the future, are there any games that you think you'd like to try? You dabbled with PUBG a little bit, PUBG. Overwatch is something you've dabbled in, and it's about to like really hit the playing field with the Overwatch League about to start up just next month. Actually, that's very soon, which I find exciting. Are there any titles that you're looking at that aren't released yet? Or are there any titles that maybe you're going to revisit? Anything like that on the go?
I think for like 2017, the majority of the games that I wanted to play have already sort of come out. There's like a couple of announcements that I am somewhat looking forward. That's like not something really big on the horizon right now that I feel like I want to play. All right, so biggest one, obvious one, Star Citizen. If that game ever releases, I'm gonna play the heck out of that. Okay, like that one's always on the horizon. I feel like it's gonna be there until like 2024. But if that ever releases, sure, I'll play that. Other than that, I feel like I'm going to play every game that Blizzard puts out, just because they make great games. I'll definitely be playing the new WoW expansion and definitely be trying out the new Hearthstone one and all the little bits and pieces there. I'm also going to play every single game that From Software will put out, like the guys from Dark Souls, Bloodborne. Really like that series of games. I've mostly just been streaming those. Still want to actually replay Dark Souls 3 with the new expansion, or the new old one, essentially, or the old new one, the one that came out a couple of months ago. Haven't quite played that one yet, but it's just so much effort. But anyway, there's not like one game in particular right now that I'm really looking forward to, but usually like I found that to be true as well this year. Like, you look at the calendar for the releases this year, and you're like, well, this seems to be a pretty quiet year for video games. And then 2017 comes along, and it turns out there's a lot of little games like Cuphead that absolutely blow my mind on how good they are, right? And there's no way I would pick those up on just like a video game release calendar. So we'll see. We'll see what will actually be released this year. But if anyone has any recommendations for games I need to try out, I mean, I'm all ears. So definitely let me know.
So that's everything that I had for the interview, the questions, and we've run the gauntlet. we're all done now, I guess. Was there anything that you had that you wanted to bring up, or any shoutouts that you want to make, anything like that?
Well, shout out to you, man, for the interviews and all the hard work. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people that really want to make content. I'm glad that you've decided to like spend time on making these interviews happen. I've been watching a bunch of them. I like them, so I hope that some of the people that watch this as well are enjoying it too. Thank you. Other than that, I mean, everyone that makes StarCraft stuff. Everyone that makes StarCraft stuff.
Did you really watch some of the other pieces?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, no way. Wow, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are making StarCraft related stuff, but it's sometimes pretty tricky to stay up to date. I watched the Avila one, for example, when that one first went live. I thought that was fascinating.
That's good. That was one of my more, I don't know, that was a bit of a controversial one when I announced that.
That's why people like it.
Yeah. It was one of my most controversial things that I've done, and it was also one of my most highly viewed. So worth at the end, I guess. Well, listen, man. Thank you so much for having the time to sit here and talk to me and talk about all the stuff that you're doing. I greatly appreciate it, guys. If you're watching this video on YouTube, go click the link down below real quick. Go to Esports 7 and read the article that coincides with it. Give them the view because they're helping me out. Hit me up on Twitter and Twitch and everywhere you can find me as Cyan Esports. Please give me those dang follows. And Lowko, sincerely, thank you so much for spending the time here with me and answering my questions.
Thank you very much as well for inviting me. It's been good.